McNeil really is, in a way, an easy place to manage. We have a single mandate. When the legislation was created in 1967, right in the very first paragraph it says to preserve the concentration of bears. Period. That's number one. Easy. And then below that, other uses to the degree that it won't affect number one will be allowed. So some sport fishing, controlled commercial fishing, no hunting, various things. And then of course the visitors that come to watch the bears, small number, highly regulated. They're led by a guide. We do things in a way that contribute not only to the safety of everybody, which of course is paramount, but it turns out that that also helps to habituate the bears, lets them know that we're not a threat to them. And it's a really interesting process. You want to maintain a relationship where they are not particularly afraid of you, hence they'll let you come close, and yet they know that we don't have anything to offer them. So of course that primarily means food. And if you don't have that sort of a scenario or dynamic where they want something from you, and then on the other hand they're not particularly fearful of you to the point that they run away, it creates what I guess I kind of think of as neutral habituation, or a neutral relationship. They don't need to come toward us for anything, and yet they don't need to run away from us for anything. And so that allows us to have a really interesting and unique relationship with them. And there's a lot of bears here, so we have a window to what they do every day, day after day, week after week, for the summer, without affecting it, which again goes back to the original concept of preserving the concentration of bears. So we're, in a way, we're kind of encouraging them, not discouraging them, and it's worked. It's sort of a theory at first, and then you go out, you try to be safe, you try to not displace bears because it's their sanctuary. You try to help the visitors have a good experience, kind of in that order. Safety, don't displace bears, address the concerns related to visitor experience. And it turns out it's all related. There's no part of that doesn't contribute to another part of it. So it's pretty easy to do, and I think it surprises people that haven't come here. Although I think folks are getting it more and more, that bears and people actually can live together. And it includes in other places. And they don't have to be habituated bears, but if you don't have a food conditioned bear and you accept some tiny little bit of risk, and it's really low, it's way more risky to drive to home or to fly over here, because we don't control things. We're not the boss of the place. It just is what it is. You can live with bears. And I think one of the neat things about McNeil is it sort of demonstrates that.
The sanctuary was established primarily to provide permanent protection for brown bears, fish, other wildlife in their habitats. So everything we do here in our field camp is to support that mission statement. In terms of our daily viewing practices, we try to be as consistent and predictable as possible every day. So we have that group of no more than 10 people plus staff, and we go out more or less at the same time. We come back more or less at the same time, give or take, based on tides and weather, things like that. We hike the same trails for the most part, day in, day out. Same place, McVick in June, July, and up at McNeil Falls, at the mouth of the river in August in the lagoon. And so in the long term, we need to maintain and sustain those trails, keep this program running the way it is, and that is to support this amazing congregation of bears.
Well, for me, it's been a really, it's been a great job. I didn't really get that the first couple of years. There's a lot of neat things in Alaska, as we all know, people that live here. neat wildlife things, neat float trips, climbing, skiing. I mean, it just goes on and on. So I thought, well, that's pretty cool, but I got a couple other little things in the hopper. And I could have worked at Round Island full time, or I could have worked on Polar Bear Project full time with Steve Abstract. Oh, well, yeah, maybe. And then, well, I'll go back for one more year. Well, 30 years later, I retired. And it's not the only neat place, but it is a very, very neat place. I mean, it's just unique in the world, truly. This is really, it's the world's largest congregation of seasonal bears. About 4 or 5 years ago, we saw 80 bears at one time. Now, granted, that's the extreme. Not everybody's going to see that. In June, it's way different, way fewer bears. And then, of course, in August. And even in July, you're not going to probably see 80, although maybe someday we'll break the record. But we're standing at McNeil River Falls. We do a count every hour on the hour. And 1, 2, 3. Looks like a lot of bears. Oh, I lost track. Got to do it again. And, oh, my God. And then down that side, and then back up that side, and behind you. And 80, really? Now, I personally only saw 76. I had to take somebody back early, but Tony counted 80. And that was not on the hour because it took so long to count it. So the official count, I think, was also 76. But they did see 80 bears. And think about that. That's more bears than there are in France at one time.
Every day we meet with the group in the morning, at the morning meeting, and we go over the basics. And we always work on a little education, both flora, fauna, this amazing place. However, we also educate how to behave in bear country, and safety comes first. So every day we keep that group as a tight-knit group. We like to be within about 3 feet of each other, so kind of like a human organism, tight-knit group of people. And we move together slowly. No fast movements. When we go through the brush and the alder and the willow, we clap and make noise every day. So in a sense, when we set up, we like the group to be close and, again, tight together. No fast movements, and we like to keep our voices lower. And the rationale for that tight-knit group is that we want to stay close, for one, to reduce any gaps in the group for safety. And that means if a bear were to chase another bear and a bear was fleeing and a bear saw a window and there's a gap, that bear might choose that window. So you want to close those windows with a human group and not create any canyons, any gaps. But on the other hand, in terms of improving your viewing opportunity, if you're a tight-knit group, bears come a little closer, and that's on their terms. And people are here to see bears. So that works out really well, too, as a strategy. Whereas if you're spread out, many bears will sort of keep their distance. If there's a lot of movement, if we're moving around, if a person wants one side of the group and a bear is in our presence, say 30, 40 feet, and then they want to be on the other side of the group, that doesn't work well. It's better if once the bears are close, just for them to stay where they are. Keep on clicking, but not a lot of up and down. And also you have to watch movements involving our packs, because zipper sounds, that zip or the Velcro sound tends to kind of frighten bears a little bit or makes them uncomfortable, and they'll move away a bit. So we try to keep those sounds, those movements to an absolute minimum when bears are up close. Now when bears move away, because we have bouts when there's no bears nearby, that's a good time for the group to get up and get into a position they want to be in. But what we're getting at here is anticipation. If you anticipate what's going to happen next, you're thinking ahead, that bear out there might come a little closer, maybe for one reason or another. And if we get where we want to be before they get close to us, that is optimum. Because once they're nearby, they may stay with us for quite a while if we behave in the manner I'm describing. It's that simple.
We do get noticed, and in fact, the guides kind of key in on that. We're out and we see a bear come. Did he notice us? And then as soon as we're assured that he has noticed us, then it becomes the bear's decision about what's going on, what's going to happen. And of course, the possibility of making a good choice is way better if he's making the choice than if we are. But having said that, we have a little like zone of influence and a bigger group. I mean, that's part of the reason why we have limited group size. It's a recognition that the bigger the group, the more the activities, the bigger the zone. And it's not that we're trying to encourage bears to come up 10 foot away and nurse, which has happened, but we want them to be comfortable. And if they choose to do that, I'm just speaking for myself, not the official program, but if they're happy, if they're not stressed, it's cool, no matter how far away they are. Now you don't want them to step on your foot because they're very heavy. And you don't want them to bump into you because they're very big, and there's caveats, I guess. So we have a little bit of a zone, and as well as they do, and when those zones touch, it's just like two bears. Even from a distance, they're reacting, reacting, and then at some point, because of the distance, the dynamic changes, and it's the same with us. So some bears are very comfortable, and we're comfortable having them close. Other bears are less comfortable, and that makes us less comfortable. But if we do all of the things that are right, which are the same that they recommend in all other places, don't surprise a bear at close distance, don't let them get your food and garbage, let them make the choice. It almost inevitably is just fine.
We have staff that watch these bears day in, day out, year in, year out, and we see thousands of interactions. And so in a sense, we start to see things that we can kind of get a better sense of prediction of what may or may not happen in a given situation. And so in a sense, we're really careful about putting that group in a safe place. Group safety is paramount. So in a sense, when the guide is making suggestions about moving close together or not moving, those are important suggestions. We're looking out for the bears and for you in terms of safety first and foremost, but in terms of enhancing your bear experience as well. And so sometimes we have a sense of where we can go and sit and what our best opportunity might be on that given day. Granted, it's an unwritten script every day. We're not sure exactly what's going to happen in terms of what we're going to see where, but we have a good idea. I think the state has done a fantastic job here with the management of the McNeil River State Game Sanctuary, starting with the four founders who designated this place in 1967, and the vision of a place where bears could just be bears. We've had people come here in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s, and here we are moving in toward 2020. But we have people who were here 30 and 40 years ago come back here. And it's a great compliment because they say to me, they're like, boy, Tom, this is one place that has not changed. And that is awesome. That's an incredible thing.